Hey, welcome, enjoying your blended family. All the B-Fams out there, we just like to give a warm welcome to you today. And hey, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining in. And we know this is it's a blessing for us and our family. And we just pray that it is a blessing for your family as well. And a blessing just for you, because this one is a topic that can really pull the rug out of a parent's, out from under their feet, really. I mean, this can be one that can, in a step family situation, this can wreak some of the most havoc, cause you some of the most pain, and it just spills right on over to your kids.
Yeah, I think it probably, if we ranked stuff, would be right there at the top. And a lot of us probably have never even knew exactly what it was. You just feel the effects of it. But we're going to define it for you today.
We're going to break it down, what it looks like.
Maybe give you a few examples. And that is, especially if you found us by typing in your Google search bar, what is high conflict co-parenting? That is what we are going to tackle today.
Ouch. It's a sticky one. It's a hard one.
And
but it can be a freeing one too.
Definitely it has your ex's face next to it in the dictionary, I'm sure.
Well, and that's what we want to start defining, what is that? And I think we all have this one version of it, but it goes so much deeper. And so we're going to talk all about that here in just a minute. So y'all stay tuned. High conflict co-parenting.
Yeah.
So what is high conflict co-parenting? If we were to define, before we even do that, I don't think I understood this terminology, this word, until we really started getting into the blended family realm and just sitting here starting to help and coach other people. And we started hearing this from a lot of the other coaches, counselors, and books that we read, and all different kinds of places. We started hearing high conflict co-parenting, and it's like, wait a minute, what in the world is that?
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't even see it written out. It's HC. What you normally see is HCBM. Do you know what that stands for?
Mm-hmm. High conflict bio mom.
Yes, because the bio mom usually gets the label on this that she is high conflict. And
moms get such a bad rap.
Yeah, well,
they do.
And that's the hard thing, because when we talk about this, like we were saying, we didn't even know what it was. I definitely didn't know what the acronym of HCBM. I remember my very first podcast recording with Radical Stepmom, and she had said something about it. I was new to the terminology, and I tried to use it. And I said, high class bio mom. I was so embarrassed. She corrected me in a kind way.
A high class bio mom.
It's me, right? I'm high class. I'm not high conflict. But like I said, we didn't know what it meant, but we definitely felt the effects of it. I would say pretty much all through our co-parenting experience was high conflict. Every once in a while, the stars would align and everything would be going smooth, and we would get along with our ex-spouses. But most of the time, we did not see eye to eye on things. Yeah. And of course, Randall and I, being the incredible humans that we are.
Oh, yes. We're perfect, never make any mistakes. We are just like,
and we
gold,
have these,
we
have these rules and
come
these
on.
like morals for our family, and this is the way it's supposed to be. And so obviously
this is a perfect family and what it looks like.
We are not high conflict.
Oh,
obviously.
Of course not. Never.
But our ex-spouses,
it's all their fault.
100%
yes.
cause so much drama.
And that's what's funny. We joke about this because of course we're being sarcastic here, but this is how most families go through being a blended family, being a step family. They go through saying, well, this is high conflict because we're right and they're wrong. And that's kind of what we want to define as high conflict co-parenting, which in reality, That's not the truth. High conflict co-parenting is basically whenever two parents that are no longer together, that are trying to raise a biological kid together, they don't see eye to eye. It's not one person's fault. It's both. I mean, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
But it's that we both don't see eye to eye. I believe my way is the right way and their way is the wrong way, and they believe my way is the wrong way and their way is the right way. And that is high conflict. But whenever you're on your side of the fence, you want to sling mud on the other side, and vice versa. And so that's kind of where we really wanted to define this terminology, because that's kind of, it's so skewed that we believe it to be the other person's fault. They're the high conflict co-parent. And we're right. We're okay.
Sorry, I cut you off there. When I'm listening to people complain about the high conflict bio mom, this is what opened my eyes to it, because I honestly did believe that we were in the right and they were in the wrong. It's because this is what we believe. That's why we believe it, right? Because this is at the core of who we are. And so I really believed like we were right, they were wrong. And then I would see these videos and listen and read these books and hear people complain on these different platforms about the high, not class, conflict bio mom. And I'm like, is that me? Am I the problem? So I really began to question some of these things. And at the heart of it, I don't think I'm trying to make conflict. Like, I don't want to fight. Yeah. I am actually very passive. I would rather people please. I don't want to fight. But if you really dig into the core of why we stand our ground on certain situations, you realize that a lot of these things that our kids are trapped in the middle of really goes down in the root of our inner hurts and insecurities and flaws.
Yes. Yeah. Not that we have any of those. I mean, goodness, no, none of us do, right? I mean, as you're listening, you're like, no, we're perfect. Everybody's perfect. It's the other people that are imperfect. And but it is one of those things that when you ask that question, wait, am I contributing to this high conflict problem? And, just to kind of take it a little deeper, we say, because of what we believe. And if you think about it, we all believe certain things, right? We all have different values. We all have different morals. We all have things that we believe are right, things that we believe are wrong, things you should do, things you should not do. And if you look at every individual, we all have a little different take on what that looks like. Right? Yeah. I mean, not every one of us are always going to believe the same things. And ultimately, that's probably why you got divorced. It's probably why in your relationship that it went south and now y'all are stuck trying to raise a kid in a co-parenting situation because y'all didn't believe the same things. Things started looking a lot different for each other, and it led to a lot of fighting, a lot of just fussing, a lot of back and forth. And you think that when you divorce and you have kids that ends. Unfortunately, it doesn't. That's really just the beginning, because now you're trying to still raise your kids together, and your value systems have not changed. Their value systems have not changed. And who's to say that they're right and you're wrong, and who's to say that you're wrong and they're right, right? It's in the eye of the beholder in a sense. Now, I know for us, we try to lean on Christian values. We try to lean on the Bible and things of that. And so much so that we would allow that to even cause a lot of complications whenever we would try to co-parent, because we would stand so firm in certain areas that it was really damaging in relationships and kind of put our kids in the middle. Yeah. And so it's that's why it's such a sticky subject that we got to talk about.
It's that gray area, and that's where I think we can get very black and white in what we believe is right and wrong. I remember a philosophy class that I took in college, and I can be very black and white, and the professor was bringing it to, like, he would present an issue, like, okay, how about stealing? Is stealing right or wrong? And of course, we're all like,
no, it's wrong.
It's wrong. You're not supposed to steal. And then he's like, okay, well, what about the 2 children that have been orphaned and that are taking care of themselves, and they take a loaf of bread from the marketplace. The older brother takes it so that his younger brother can eat. What do you say about that? Because that's stealing now, is it? And it's like, well, wait. And the way that he presented certain situations, like, I mean, when it comes to murder, but when you're fighting in a war, like, there's not everything is so black and white. And even in our faith, or and our beliefs and what the Bible says, there's so many Christians that stand on complete opposite sides of what is right and wrong. And it comes down to the heart and love being the core of, like, okay, why do we do what we do? And that is when we can start seeing that, like, okay, like, just like the professor, like, switched my mindset there, like, okay, so stealing, sometimes there's some justification to it, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to sit here and say, no, I'm wrong?
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, and that's what it is. There is. It's not just such a cookie cutter thing with our beliefs and everything, and it all comes down to just what you said. It all comes down to love, leading with love, and so often when we're co-parenting, we're leading with hate. We're leading with anger. Yeah. And if we really get down to the co-parenting and we get down to the high conflict, and we say that because if you took a poll for blended families, there is such a small percentage that would say we're rocking this. Me and my co-parent, we are just on, we're doing good. We agree on stuff.
We have
we're
family
able
vacations together.
We do great, and we have seen that before.
Yeah.
We have seen families like that, and man, what a awesome place to be in. But unfortunately, that's a small percentage. The large percentage are having these complications to where you're not seeing eye to eye. There's a lot of high conflict going on, and that's just basically both sides. You don't see the same things. You don't have the same values, the morals, beliefs, and now you're trying to raise your kids together. And there, a lot of you saying, well, if they were out of the picture, everything would be good. And then they're saying the same thing. If they were just out of the picture, everything would be good. But, whenever we really come down to high conflict co-parenting and why we lead with hate instead of lead with love, really comes down to the emotions behind it. I mean, we sit there, and if you think about it, what are we really parenting out of? We're parenting out of pride. We want
my way is the right way, and I'm going to prove it.
Yep, and I'm going to be right, and you're going to be wrong, or I don't want to look bad. I don't want to look bad in front of my new spouse, in front of my kids, and so I'm going to stand out a lot more. We parent out of fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of
our kids getting harmed and being in harm's way. Yeah.
So there are all kinds of emotions that if we get down to the root of high conflict, why we stand our ground so much is because we don't want to be wrong. We want to be right. And ultimately we don't want to be in this situation. It sucks. And I think that's whenever we start really wanting to fight back and stand our ground. And really all we're doing is putting our kids in smack dab in the middle of it, and nothing good ever comes from it.
Yeah, and I know, some of these situations, they're big deals, but to other people it may not even be that big deal. And if you're not in a blended family, some of these things you don't understand because you've never had to make these kind of choices. You're married and y'all make choices together, and you don't have to go consult a whole nother household before you do anything. But I know, when I first was divorced and my kids were right at the age of going to school, and my ex-spouse was very bound and determined that the kids go to the same elementary school that he went to. And I was set on the kids going to the elementary school that I went to. And when looking back at it, like how silly. But it meant so much to us at the time, right? I mean, so much so that, we were having screaming match, arguing over where the kids are going to go to school. And they have to go somewhere. You can't compromise on this, right? Like, well, this week they go to your school and this week they go to our school. Someone has to.
It's a co-parenting school.
Yes, that would be a pretty interesting.
That would be a mess.
But if you went down to the root of it, like you're saying, down to the heart of it, for me, because I came from a divorce situation, and in the middle of when my parents were going through their divorce, I was at the school in the town that he was talking about, and my life was just hard and a mess and sad. I was a young little kid that was just felt broken. And then I went to this other school, the one that I wanted my kids to go to, and I felt seen and recognized and loved, and I fell in love with school. I fell in love with my teachers. I wanted to become a teacher, and I just wanted my kids to have that same experience. And in my head, it was like, if I can have them go here, they will feel loved and secure. Now I'm going through a divorce and I'm dragging my kids through it, and I'm wanting to make sure that they feel safe and loved and seen. But that only can happen at my school, right?
It's not going to happen at any other school than this one. So this is...
But you see how it goes down into the inner child that makes so many of the decisions that we make, but we don't really, in the surface, it was like, no, this is just a better school. Come on, this is a better school. And that's my argument there. But it really goes so much deeper into the feelings and the wounds that I had when my parents were going through a divorce.
So we're going to talk about one of the hard topics, Christianity, as far as, one side is faith-based and one side is not. What does that look like? And how does that play into high conflict? So we'll talk about that here in just a minute.
Just a minute.
Ooh.
Blended families can be hard at times, can't they? Have you ever said, I don't feel like me and my spouse are connecting? Or I'm bending over backwards and my stepkid still pushes me away? Or do you feel like your family's doing okay, but you'd like it to be more than okay? You want your family to level up, take it to an even stronger level.
The truth is, we're all looking for more joy and happiness in our lives. So how do we start seeing that in our blended family? Because really, our family is the first place we should truly be enjoying and having the most fun with. So how do you enjoy your blended family? You create more fun opportunities that your family loves doing. These are big things, they're small things that cost money, things that don't cost money. But the more fun you have together, the less blended family drama you'll have, which equals more joy and happiness for everyone. Now, you may be saying, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. I don't even know where to start. That's okay. We walk you through 5 fun dates you get to have with your family. These dates help you discover those fun things your family loves doing. You'll walk away with so many more great ideas and have an amazing, easy plan to make it happen and to keep it going. Plus, you get to have a lot of fun discovering all this in the process. We walk you through everything and make it really fun and easy.
So how do you enjoy your blended family? By going on these 5 dates and discovering fun in your stepfamily. You'll be so glad you did. Have more fun together and you'll see less problems. The link to get started on this amazing journey is in the show notes of this episode.
So high conflict co-parenting, and one side follows Christian values and morals, and then the other side sits there and says, that's stupid, it's not real, you shouldn't believe that. Does that ever happen? I mean, that's never happened before, has it?
Nope.
No, there we go. Okay.
Now that is such a hard one though, because when it's your faith, I mean, most religions, like people are willing to die because over the fact of this is right and I've got to stand firm in my beliefs, and that's why there's wars fought over who is right and who is wrong in this area, and you feel the pressure as a believer in your faith to speak out on that and speak truth on that and to pass that on to your children and teach them those things. And it is scary when you think about someone else coming in and tainting that. But at the same time, you married that someone else.
It's true. It all comes down to our own choices. And we bring that up because this is one of the hardest topics that lead to high conflict co-parenting, especially in a Christian realm. But it happens. And the thing is we just use this as an example because you could plug in any other value that you believe and the other parent doesn't believe, and now you're stuck trying to figure out, well, how do I co-parent this? I want them to believe this way, and they're telling them, no, don't do that. And now our kids are so confused or so torn, they don't know what to think, right? Now they've got so much added pressure to the situation. So, this is just one example. And really the thing I think that we have learned the most is to model what we believe, and, just kind of going deeper in that is your kids being in a divorce situation. There's nothing you can do about that now, especially if the other parent is still in the picture. They're going to have two different sides that they see all the time. Yeah. They're gonna see your side and they're gonna see your ex's side, and that's part of life. That's the way your life looks like now. We've had podcasts on talking about resentment and things of how we just kind of mourn that normal family life, that's not us anymore. It looks different, right? And so we just have to come to terms that that's not what it's going to look like for us anymore, not for our kids. Our kids are going to see two sides of things. And I think the sooner that we can come to that reality, the quicker we can sit there and say, I'm just going to model my beliefs. And my kid is going to sit there and see two sides. And then as they get older, they're going to choose the side that they want to believe, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing even if you're in a nuclear family. I mean, you can have, two faith-based parents raising kids, and then all of a sudden your kid goes off and goes to college and starts believing all kinds of different crazy things, right? I mean, that's just part of life. But the more we can model and the more we can show what we believe and why we believe it, then the more attractive that is to our kids. And now we're not forcing it on them, but now they're seeing it and they're being like, wow, okay, that makes sense to me. I like that. I'm going to adopt that in my life.
Yeah, and just giving them that opportunity because like the scripture says, me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's your house. You get to choose what you do in your house, but you don't get to choose what someone else does in their house. And I know for me, I felt fear for one, fear for their salvation, and that was some immaturity on my side just because they're going to another house that they don't believe it's not going to, just because they're not showing up to church every Sunday, I guess we'll say that. They're not, I would feel like that judgment of like, oh, my kids aren't here this week. I remember even like they would get like play money, like it was like dollars for every time they showed up. And then they had like a church store for them. And the kids were not there every other week and every other Wednesday sometime or whatever that they would miss. And I felt like they were missing out on it. That's a silly example.
Yeah.
But I felt like when they missed out, like that was on me. Like, oh, my kids can't go to church every week. But their salvation has nothing to do with the amount of times that they're showing up in the church doors.
Yeah. So, this is just one of those prime examples of what leads to high conflict co-parenting and how easy we can fall into this trap. And then, like in this example, it would be easy for us to say, well, they're wrong because they don't believe the way that we believe. And, and then we have that condemnation. Now, we're not leading out of love, right? We're leading out of hate. We're still like, it's you're the problem. And,
you're dragging our kids to hell.
Yeah. And oh, this is terrible, and in reality, we're leading out of anger and frustration and all this, and we're not leading out of love, which is kind of the premises of Christianity is everything we should do should be in love. And so actually we're not modeling Christianity well whenever we're co-parenting in that sense. And, that's a hard thing for us to learn. We could write a book on the wrong ways that we co-parented and a lot of the pressures and things that we added to things, we could definitely add to all of that.
When we add it, and that's, I think the key is to say like the pressures that we put on ourselves because we feel like other people are looking or judging or whatever, we add on this whole like extra to it that is not necessary. And that's where when we can take that step back and begin to see like, okay, this is what I do have control over. And I think that is one of the biggest takeaways when it comes to these high conflict is you have no power and control over that other house. You can spend thousands of dollars to try to fight what happens in their house, but ultimately they get to decide what happens in their house, and you get to decide what happens in your house.
That's right. And, it's kind of like a silly example is maybe you keep your house super clean and your ex keeps their house super dirty, and you're worried that your kids are going to grow up just keeping their house super dirty, when in reality, it might be the dirtiness that makes them not want to live that way. They want to live clean because now they've experienced a clean life as opposed to a dirty life, right? And so, I'm using that just as an example as our values. And you can, like I said, you can plug anything into that you believe. And that's what it is. We model what it looks like, and ultimately our kids will have that choice, and they're going to choose what's right for them. And just being able to step back and release that pressure from yourself, from your kids. And then, I think one of the last things that we can just share is just to lead out of love, right? We talked about that, but whenever you're co-parenting, it really is choosing those battles and saying, does it need to be fought? Is it really that important? Kind of like your elementary story, it's you sit back and be able to remove yourself from that and say, is it that important to put added pressure on my kids?
And that's the hard thing, because for us to sit here, removed, at least we'll say 10 years removed, from those moments. In those moments, it to me is like a life or death situation, which it shouldn't be. Now I can see that and I can say that and know that it wasn't that big of a deal. But in that moment, it is a huge deal. Like even us laughing and joking about the different situations, when you're in the middle of it, it does feel monument. It feels you feel powerless because these are your children and God has given them to you, passing them through you to be able to raise them in the best of your ability. And now you feel crippled because you can only do a half job. And where you're saying like, okay, take a step back and say like, is it that big of a deal? Is it worth the fight? It probably isn't. But are you going to be able to hear that right now? I don't know. But one thing that you can do to help in that situation is when you feel completely powerless, that's when we've got to be praying. We should be praying even before that. Prayer should not be our last resort, but we tend to use it as a last resort. But that is when like, okay, I cannot tell my ex-spouse what to do or my new spouse's ex what to do. I can't make my kids follow. I mean, I wanted my ex-spouse to even follow the diet that I had for the kids because of their allergies, but it wasn't deathly allergies. It was just like skin irritation allergies that would come, and he just wouldn't listen to me. But my son wouldn't either. And it was like, these are the things that it's like, I could not control that I had to let go and release and say, okay, God, I have no control in this area, so I'm going to control the things that I can in my home and do the best that I can, and I'm going to trust you as their loving father to take care of them. Man, if I'd have $1 for every time I've prayed Psalms 91, which is a protection prayer, so just a little tip for you. You take out the word you or them or whoever or I in there, and you replace it with your kid's name that you are scared what's going to happen to them, and you pray that over them. You pray it when they're gone. You pray it in the middle of the night when you wake up anxious about what's happening. you take that scripture and you screenshot it or print it out and have that nearby and just speak that over. And that scripture is saying that God is going with them to and fro. When they're at your house, when they're on the road, when they're at your co-parents, he's sending his angel armies to surround them and keep them safe. And I just have to remind myself that all the time when the kids were away, is like, Lord, your word says that you have sent your angels to protect them and keep them safe. And I trust in you. I trust that you're doing that.
Yeah, so good. And, co-parenting is hard. I mean, we're not saying that it's easy by any means. And, we're far removed, and we look back now going, dang, if I had done this, if I had done that. And I wish that I had somebody feeding some words of wisdom, some trials and errors into my ear. That way, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. It's still going to be hard. It's still going to be challenging. You're not always going to get it right. And you're going to have, you're going to have some stances that you're like, I'm not budging on this one. This is what I believe, and that's going to lead to conflict right there because the other side may not. And, it's just one of those battles that you say, no, this one is worth fighting for. And, you're going to have some of those, but, really being able to step back and ask yourself, is this worth fighting for? Am I leading in love? Am I doing this with love? If I had asked myself those questions whenever I was facing those challenges and things as well, that would have helped so much. Maybe I would have got a little more right. Maybe not every time by any means, but, it really is. It's taking prayer, using that as your main weapon, and then just reminding yourself, I don't want to put my kids in this. Let me model what I believe. Yeah. And then let me really ask myself, am I leading with love with this? Is it worth fighting for? I mean, and, sometimes you might be like, yeah, it is. And then sometimes you may be like, no, probably not. I'm just being dumb. So those are a few tips. Next week, we're going to have a whole lot more. We got a cool interview that you're going to lead.
Brittany from Blending Bravely coming on, and she's going to help us kind of get through some more steps. Because let's just be real. There are some people, I'm saying that at the heart, I was probably high conflict, but the heart of it wasn't because I wanted to fight. But there are some people out there that they just like to fight.
They do.
They just want to be, I call it being opposite. And if you say, oh, we're going to plan our vacation on this week, and you give them plenty of warning, and then they still want to ruin that trip for you by saying, well, no, they can't go because they're going to be sick that day. They just want to come head to head. And there are people out there that are like that. So I invited her on so that we could discuss some of these, how to maneuver through those situations.
Yeah, good stuff. So it really is. It's one of these topics that are big in the step family, blended family realm. We use them interchangeably. One's a little bit negative, one's a little bit positive. But it's one of those hot topics that it can really wreck us. It can wreck our family. It can leave us just really angry, hateful, just spiteful. Just all those negative emotions will come up whenever you're trying to co-parent sometimes.
Well, and it is in the Bible, but it's like a parable that's being said. So if you just, we'll leave you with this visual of the baby and the two parents, and both of the parents were claiming ownership over the child. And so they present it to the king or something. And so the king tells them, we're just going to cut the baby down the middle and y'all can both take a piece. And then one of the women was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And the other one was like, no, like you take it. And so he ends up taking the baby and giving it to the one that said, no, you can go ahead and have it, because a real mother that loves their child doesn't want them. And so that's just a very graphic, because who would chop a baby in half and give them to two people? But it's the analogy there for you to see. And when we are both standing grounds, holding on to those child, pulling them, no, you're mine, you're going to do this my way. And then your co-parent is saying the same thing. Your child is torn in the middle and it's tearing them up. And so to be able, even in the situations where you feel like very strong and this is how things should be, sometimes it's letting go is the right thing to do, because it's releasing your child out of being in the middle position.
Yeah. And, it's not an easy, like we said, it's not black and white. There's so many gray areas and there's so many different situations that, you really, like we're saying, lean on God first, lean on God. God knows everything and he's taking care of every situation that you're running through, but really leaning on him, and he will lead you in the right way. He will lead you to the right choices, the right decisions. And so just really allowing that to help give you some freedom in that situation that you're facing, because unfortunately there's probably going to be a lot more of them, but everyone that we walk through, we just get wiser and we learn more, to whereas whenever you do get through your journey, your co-parenting journey, then you're like, man, all right, we did good. We all came out alive and kicking and positive, and everyone's doing good, And
the parenting does come to an end, but the relationship doesn't come to an end. And if you're able to really hone in on this and make some loving choices now during the parenting side, you're going to strengthen that relationship so that when they are older than 18 and they have a choice, do they want to come to your house for the holidays, or do they want to come and just hang out with you because they love you and want to be around you? That is what we're doing. We're putting in the tough time now so that they'll want to be in those relationships with us when they do have the choice. Because
ultimately, you're going to have a lot more time with your kids as adults than you will as kids. Mm-hmm. So we're investing now to reap the rewards later. So good stuff. Well, listen, there's so much more we could say, so much more we could talk about. But as far as this episode, we really wanted to dive into what is high conflict co-parenting, what does that look like, give you a few just tips maybe to help you out where you're at, and just having that reminder as it's not easy. It's not always easy, And I remember there's a few couples that we've talked to, and one's like, oh yeah, we get along great, and we make all the, we just co-parent so good, and we go on vacations together. And in my head, I'm like, you suck. What the crap?
Yeah, I mean, because deep down,
no,
I think
that's impossible. That doesn't work.
I mean, if someone asked me, would you want that? I think I would. I would like to be able to get along in that manner with our ex. I mean, maybe not vacations, just because, we got a lot of friends. But if we could do holidays together and come together, if it could just be.
If everybody could just get along, be happy, be loving and kind, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. But listen, we live in a crazy world, and, we're just human. We all mess up and make mistakes and say the wrong things and do the wrong things, and but God loves us anyway. So there's that. So listen, we love you guys. And like we said, we'll dive a little bit more into the next episode. So y'all stay tuned for that. It's going to be another good one. But other than that, you have a great week. We love you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Later. Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has been a blessing and encouraged your family journey.
Make sure you stay connected with us and join our weekly Blended Family newsletter. We send an email out every Friday morning full of support and encouragement.
And when you join, we also want to give you a free gift. So go get yours today. The link is in the show notes below.
Have an amazing day. Remember to enjoy the journey with your blended family, and we'll see you on the next episode.